As a longtime fan with a lot of dedication to the series, Pokemon has always been on my radar. With its brilliant tightrope act of juggling between casual and hardcore appeal, Game Freak has consistently delivered high-quality experiences. Now with Pokemon Sword and Shield, the series has finally returned to the console realm with a fully fledged release. Considering the impact the games have had on the general public as well as the wide target audience, the latest Pokemon title has a lot to live up to. With Pokemon's easy to learn, hard to master mechanics, Pokemon Sword pushes harder than ever to streamline the series. Many of the past issues from previous titles have been ironed out. The developers successfully cut the fat out from previous titles and allowed this latest iteration to shine like the crazy diamond it was always meant to be. With a wide array of Pokemon to play with, Pokemon Sword has plenty of team building options to choose from. Admittedly, not having access to every single Pokemon is somewhat of a bummer, but it hinders so slightly that only the really devoted fans will be disappointed. The streamlining in Pokemon Sword is absolutely fantastic. For example, the removal of HMs eliminates the need to lug around a team that has those terrible moves spread throughout, or 2 slots worth of HM slaves and 4 Pokemon you actually want. This allows players to have a greater degree of freedom as to what kind of team they want to build. The game has also made more tedious utilities such as renaming Pokemon and relearning old moves free and accessible in the Pokemon Center. As a result, the tedium of trying to remember where the name raider is located or having to gather heart scales to learn powerful moves is a mere remnant of the past. Even my hesitance of leaving Pokemon in the daycare center is gone, since any dumb move they teach it can be undone with ease. The new Dynomax feature is apparently worth noting, but it kinda borders on being a sort of Godzilla-style gimmick. It's neat to see a supersized Trubbish fill the stadium with the reality of modern-day capitalism, but beyond that, it just feels like an artificial way to make the game feel more exciting. Oftentimes, gym leaders Dynamax their Pokemon like it's their ace in the hole. However, it really doesn't stop my Haxorus from one-shotting it after going through a few rounds of Sword Dance. Mechanically, it makes the giant Pokemon become stronger and transforms their moves into more powerful ones. All of this lasts just for 3 turns and each player can only do it once per battle. Admittedly, it functions well as a way to pick up momentum in a battle, but for the most part, I wouldn't be surprised to see it scrapped later down the line. With EXP share being forced upon players, the game further emphasizes having a balanced team. Oftentimes in past titles, the journey was easily breezed through using solely the starter Pokemon. It was a rudimentary exercise in using a Swiss Army knife approach to decimate entire legions of foes. This time around, the player usually has access to their entire arsenal of Pokemon due to the Pokemon box being accessible on the go. The developers also correctly decided not to heal Pokemon that go into the box this way, which would have easily been a design oversight. To top that off, players can usually cook food for their team in order to heal them. This adds a fun little mini-game that reduces the tedious journeys back to the Pokemon Center, or using potions, because I'm stingy. Admittedly, the challenge factor has undoubtedly diminished as a result of all the streamlining, but the games have often been easy to begin with. Regardless, self-prescribed challenges are still available for die-hard players, but for most, it's a non-issue. With regards to most mechanics, the game is fully intact and strangely addictive in a familiar yet fresh manner. Pokemon Let's Go appears to have had a positive influence on Pokemon Sword, as the roaming overworld encounter system has returned. There aren't any of those annoying random encounters that occur from just touching a piece of grass. Pokemon Sword features a notably ambitious open world region called the Weald area. It's somewhat of a building block to creating a full-blown open world Pokemon title. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel completely fleshed out, but it definitely gives the impression of a living, breathing Pokemon world. I'm honestly impressed by the Weald area's sheer size, though the actual mechanics behind the monstrous expanse leave a lot to be desired. First off, the online raid feature that involves taking down giant Pokemon really doesn't have the polish one would expect in a game released in 2019. Oftentimes, I would connect to rooms that just failed to let me join in. Without even an in-game lobby, the online system in place makes joining raids a tedious task. Additionally, in the Weald area, it's impossible to catch Pokemon that have a higher level than you. The game makes it clear to the player that you cannot throw the ball, which puts a damper on the open world freedom aspect of the Weald area. In regards to regular encounters, it seemed impossible to catch any Pokemon that had a higher level than the current Pokemon I had in play. Despite the game letting me throw as many balls as I wanted, I was unable to catch some Pokemon no matter how weakened they were. It was absolutely infuriating, but it's only a problem if you're unaware of this rage-inducing mechanic. Wonder Trade makes a spiritual return as the more passive surprise trade. It still results in allowing players to randomly trade with strangers in such a way that potentially undermines catching all the Pokemon, as passively trading them is so much easier. Admittedly, surprise trade takes a lot longer, so spamming it is a lot less viable than how it was with Wonder Trading. Visually, Pokemon Sword takes an obvious step in graphical quality, while maintaining its cel-shaded anime-esque aesthetic. However, it's a notable half step as the texture quality still feels compromised when compared to the more visually intensive titles in the Switch's library. Regardless, it's undoubtedly a step in the right direction, and a welcome improvement to a series that hasn't had a full-blown console adventure since the GameCube. The character design is solid, with a wide range of quirky, colorful characters. With such a major leap in the presentation, it's a real shame that there's a lack of voice acting, which leaves the game feeling behind with the times. As with all stories in the series, it's a tale that's all about being the best. Sure, there are clear deviations from past games, but surely you're going to become the best and save the world at some point. With regards to the characters, the cast is vibrant with minor traits that make them memorable and in some cases, more nuanced. Along with the brand new Galar region at the center, the lore manages to feel uniquely European. Surprisingly, the story really hones in on being the best, while mostly letting the adults take care of the serious business. This time around, a handful of characters get to really stand out. The game's tournament-styled structure provides decent opportunities to run into opposing challengers, making the competition feel more realistic and engaging. Admittedly, most of the dialogue was generally uninteresting and milquetoast. However, the vibrant characters were able to stand out regardless. Pokemon Sword is the best Pokemon game in many ways. With the critical streamlining and major leaps in presentation, Game Freak has developed a title that impresses in all the right ways. However, the occasional peculiarity in design manages to wriggle its way into the game, slightly hindering the experience. Regardless, it's an incredible title that moves above and beyond in many aspects. Pokemon Sword is undoubtedly worth recommending as it irons out major design issues from the series, while managing to create an engaging, fresh Pokemon journey. Thanks for watching the review. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like the video and consider subscribing to my channel. The original review was written for DarkStation, and I was provided a review copy. If you want more, here are some of my other videos. See you all next time when I break down why I haven't covered my game of the year, and possibly never will.